I've used the AirPods Pro first generation every single day since they were released in October 2019. These have been brilliant, convenient, but I have faced a few different problems. Thankfully, the AirPods Pro second generation have now been released and kind of fix a range of different problems. In this review, we're going to talk about the AirPods Pro second generation, along with what I think of them, are they worth it when compared to the first generation, and a range of other things. So let's jump into it. Inside the box, you'll find the typical things. You'll find the AirPods themselves, charging cable, and additional ear tips along with Apple stickers. Now, to set them up, it's quite an interesting experience. Film your phone using iOS 16 and the camera and move your ear around. To try and film and set that up at the same time was a bit of a challenge, but once that's done, then it's pretty fantastic. First things first, let's talk about the design. When compared to the first generation, the second generation AirPods isn't much difference from a distance. It's only when you look close up that you can see some small differences. So on the case themselves, at the bottom, you'll be able to see 3 different points, and that is for the speaker. And you'll see on the side, there is a little bit of an anchor point for a lanyard or wrist attachment or whatever you choose to put as part of that attachment. The AirPods themselves aren't much different either. Both having the exact same design, you will be able to see a slight divot on the new second generation, but from a distance again, you won't be able to tell much of a difference. Moving on to the case itself, yeah, the 3 dots at the bottom are a speaker. It's not a speaker where you're going to be playing your normal tunes, but it's almost like a tweeter speaker. It gives you a range of different notifications for when this is on charge, and the U1 chip that is inside the case allows you to use things like Find My and allows you to play sound out of this when lost. That brings me on to the first problem with my first generation AirPods. I would lose them quite regularly, so being able to use Find My to find these has been brilliant. First thing in the mornings, I wake up at 5:15 AM to be able to go to work as a teacher. I am scurrying around the house trying to look for these. It's one of those small features that saves me time. In addition, this at the bottom will play a small sound when you put the AirPods on charge. For me, this is great because there have been times where I've thought I've put things on charge, plugged them in, put them onto my wireless charger, whatever it is, and realized that the charger itself is not on. So listening out for that small sound is great, and again means that I don't get to the first thing in the morning and go, I've got to put it on charge. Another small Apple win, if you like, is that you can put an emoji on the front of your AirPods Pro 2. Unfortunately, as I am a resident in Dubai, that feature is not available here in the UAE, so never mind. It's one of those small little things, but I know that some people will just appreciate that and it'll bring a smile to some people's faces. Moving on to the earbuds themselves, the earbuds do have a bumped up battery life. This is great, it's gone from about 4 hours to 6. I've never really gone with the AirPods in my ear for 6 hours. I might be able to get away with doing that when I'm flying from the UAE back to the UK now, as that was probably the only case factor I can think of for that. But personally, it's not something that I'm going to benefit from. What will be great is that 6 hours will turn into about 4 hours in a couple of years' time as the battery starts to diminish. From there, we move on to perhaps the most important part, and that is sound. When compared to the first generation is great for general pop, R&B, hip-hop songs, but doesn't have anything more than a kind of mid-bass is how I would describe it. There's no kind of depth to the sound. The trebles and highs are pretty decent, but again, it's kind of not comparable to something like the Sony MH1000X, whatever it is, for I've got headphones. So compared to that sound, it's definitely not as good. But again, those are headphones. I've been blown away by the sound quality of the second generation. These earphones do have a definite depth to them that you don't get with the first generation. There is not a thumping bass like you would expect with something like, I don't know, Skull Crushers, and that in many ways is nice because it creates this nice round sound profile. What that means is that you're able to really hear some of the depth and deep sounds along with having those great trebles and high notes. Along with that, when you start hearing different vocals, for me personally, I find that the vocals of both male and females are more distinguished as a result of the sound that is inside the second generation.
Personally, this is great for songs that are outside of the pop genre, things like jazz, things like classical music that I will listen to when things are nice and quiet, and you can really start to distinguish those sounds. So overall, I definitely think that the sound has developed when compared to the first generation. I think, yeah, the most prominent thing is the fact that the depth has developed. One thing to note with the new AirPods Pro that is kind of within the design/sound category is that you can turn up and down the volume by using the control panel that is on the AirPod itself. You can swipe up for volume up and swipe down for volume down. This is great because previous to this, I would need to get my phone out of my bag if I was at the gym and start messing around with that to be able to control the volume. Again, it only saves me a small amount of time, but I've definitely been using it frequently. It's quite interesting how seamlessly that transition into swiping up and down is when you first get these. From there, we move on to my favorite feature of the AirPods Pro, and that is the noise cancellation. With the first generation AirPods Pro, we know that the noise cancellation wasn't magnificent. However, anything that kind of blocks out a little bit more noise when compared to first generation, second generation, general AirPods was something that I just appreciated, I think. But I know compared to headphones, many people would just get rid of these altogether. The second generation has kind of blown me away in terms of noise cancellation. Apple reports that it's 2 times better than the first generation, and if that's what they're reporting, it's definitely noticeable. Even without music, when you turn on the noise cancellation using the control panel on the side, you notice that it will automatically cut out the majority of white noise that is around. When I'm out and about walking along the road, it does a great job of cutting out the noise of the road. And again, when I'm in places like doing the supermarket shop at the weekend, it does a fantastic job of giving me some peace and quiet. But that takes me on to turning this off. One of the other features that is available on the AirPods Pro is the ability to turn the noise cancellation and transparency off. That's lovely. And it's not something that I've used all the time, but it's definitely when I'm getting a bit too overwhelmed by noise cancellation, it's something that I do like to have. Other than that, if I am walking out and about and don't want to cut out the noise of the road because it's an unfamiliar location in Dubai, I can use the new adaptive transparency. Apple does a great job of being able to amplify the sounds that are going on from your surrounding, whilst also being able to diminish any surprising loud sounds. I do regularly use the AirPod Pro for things like online parent Zoom meetings and other conference calls that I have. Unfortunately, there's not a significant upgrade in the microphone quality from the second generation. There's a small thing if it's nice and quiet, however, it does pick up lots of external background noise, but perhaps that is something that will be improved in the third generation. That brings me to the end of the second generation AirPods Pro review. Overall, is the second generation worth the upgrade from the first generation? I would say it's worth it if you've had the first generation for a while and you're looking for that next step. The small differences in the second generation, yeah, I would say it's worth it. The sound is definitely developed. But if you've only just bought the first generation, I would say stick with them because what I've had from the first generation is brilliant. I'm always grateful for the amount that I've been able to use these and the way that they've integrated into my life, but I'm definitely happy about the different small upgrades inside the second generation. So yeah, gets my seal of approval. Check out other Apple videos that I've made in the past over here. If you want to subscribe to the channel, feel free to do that too up here, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Until then, I'm out. But thankfully, Claire said throw them, do not launch them at me. Jeez.
He said throw them on, thankfully.
I said pass them to me. Man alive. Are you trying to kill a man? I need something to wipe my head with now. I almost took my head off. Stop, cut.